The algorithm is something that news organizations for years have always complained about. Not that it's necessarily biased, but that we don't know how it works, that it's a black box. And so that's the thing, is that because they've kept it secret for so long and they keep adjusting it and changing it, as you point out, they just leave themselves open to these charges, whether they're justified or not. It seems that President Trump is sort of basing it on a blog post from a conservative news outlet that did a very unscientific search of his name and sort of saw the results of that. And then you have to decide whether CNN is the left-wing or right-wing news outlet. One thing we do know about the Google algorithm is that they tend to sort of favor news articles that get links from a lot of other news articles. So a company like CNN, is a pretty big organization, probably gets a lot of traffic to begin with, and so gets a lot of links from other news sites. So that's part of how that algorithm has always worked. And I think there's sort of a built-in system, but whether or not it's biased, I don't think Google's ever exhibited either way. It's more the fact that it's always been a black box that sort of makes them liable for these charges.
But I mean, whether this test case was scientific or not, if you go and do, as I'm sure you did this morning, and I just did, and you go and put in exactly that phrase, Trump News, what you do see are mostly articles from, let's say, the mainstream media, certainly not the less well-read media that might be more represented in conservative circles, the mainstream media that the president seems to think leans left. I also turned up 10 best erectile dysfunction pills in my search for Trump News. Go figure. But at any rate, that's what I saw. You can't really look at it any other way.
You can't look at it any other way. But the other thing too is that I don't want to reveal too much for you, but like the Google search is often based on a lot of times your prior searches or other sort of contextual sort of sites that you have visited. So your result looks different from everyone else's. I did the same thing.
Well, maybe that's why I got the erectile dysfunction.
Right, you got to be careful about what you say.
I get your reference there.
But the thing is, I did it as well. The first thing that came up was a Fox News story. So foxnews.com actually does get a lot of traffic, whether or not you consider it a conservative or a left-leaning or a conservative outlet. It showed up first for me, at least. And so, I think the charges, they're hard to reconcile, right, with what you always see. And I think, again, it's like it's going to come back to the algorithm constantly changes. We don't know how it really works. It's different for everybody.
And Ed,
so it's not a universal thing.
Big picture here, though, is there any danger for Google in becoming the target for the president? I mean, does this encourage a whole portion of the nation to go to Bing or some other search?
Yeah, I think that's less likely, though it's certainly a concern. We have to live with Google. We have to live with Facebook. I mean, they're the duopoly for online advertising and online traffic. So if you're in the news business, you can't live without either one of them, and you got to do your best to make sure that you show up. And, conservative news outlets have claimed bias, that they don't show up as readily, so that there is some fair criticism there. At the same time, is it a function of being conservative, or is it a function of that they're just a smaller site to begin with? And, the conservative well of opinion and blogs out there are rising, but again, they're still relatively small compared to the established news outlets.
Yeah.